What if I told you that there is one single thing that, if done wrong, may result in ineffective prospecting, no leads from marketing, bad website design, and also maybe the reason why you have lost your last client? If that sounds interesting to you, then stick with me, because today we're gonna talk about the value proposition. This channel is powered by SellQuark, company that helps B2B organizations grow smarter through sales and marketing consulting. For more information, visit SellQuark.com. And today we're gonna talk about the value proposition. But before we get there, I need to show you where the value proposition takes its life from, because it's this bigger strategic topic that the value proposition comes from. And this topic is what we call a buyer persona. The buyer persona is a strategic topic, as I already mentioned, that lets you very well understand who is your final client. First of all, let me tell you what the buyer persona is built of. So the buyer persona consists of 5 things, and let me go through all of them very quickly. The first one is a segment. The segment, of course, tells us what type of company that is, their size, revenue, amount of employees, what are they doing. Next up, we have a decision person. This is a person that we are getting in touch with that is making a final decision on whether to buy our product or not, or rather to buy from us or from the competitor. Next up, we have problems and challenges of that buyer persona. Those speak about what is currently happening at that company, so you may actually help them with those problems and challenges by your product or your service. And of course, those problems and challenges also refer to your interest, right? So if you are just a supplier of a certain material, you don't really care about their HR problems, okay? So just to be clear, right? Just to be clear. Next up, we have the topic of today's video, which is a value proposition. So I'm not gonna say too much because we're gonna deep dive onto it in just a second. And the last part is a buying journey. So, or the buying process, which talks about what is happening at your client's company, how he is thinking, how he is searching and learning more. And there is initial process from the first, touch point with a certain problem all the way to purchasing something that is supposed to help him solve that problem. All of those topics are gonna be included on this channel. On the next 3 videos, we're gonna go through all of those, but today it's the value proposition that we are taking first. So what is the value proposition in short? The value proposition is, well, as the name suggests, the value that you are proposing to the market. And the value proposition is so fascinating because it allows the company to exist on the market and actually grow. Why? Because each company has some kind of value, especially to a certain type of a buying persona, right? Which we are gonna get into in the future, right? But there always is some value that makes the company better at something, or maybe at least different. Because if there is totally nothing that your company is doing better, there is completely no reason why you should be chosen out of all of the competitors on the market. And what is your plan of survival after all, right? So each company has some values, especially to some buyer persona, because what can be a value to one company may have completely no value to other. But let's not get too far too ahead of myself. What is a problem with value propositions at many companies? Because it would seem very obvious, right? there is a company, and the reason why it has been founded is because it could have been better at something. The reason why it's still living on the market is that it could survive because it was better at something on the market. So how this topic can be so complicated, right? Well, let me tell you how most of the values that I have seen in the companies look like. I'm gonna give you 3 most prominent examples. So those are the statements of values in 90% of companies are high quality, 10 years plus on the market, and attention to details. So what's the problem with those values? Well, the problem with those values, there are a couple of those actually. The first one, it doesn't really say who are you and what are you doing, because those values can be said by virtually anyone. They can be said by a hairdresser or by a company that produces very specific components and selling them only to Boeing and NASA, okay? Both those companies can have 10 plus years of experience. They can have attention to details and high quality if a hairdresser can have a high quality, right? But those don't really propose any kind of value to an actual client, to that buyer persona, because it doesn't really solve any kind of problem. It doesn't really say a lot about you as a company as well. So what should we do with them to make them better? Well, there is a simple tool, I say, that lets us transition those potential values, because there is very high chance that those are not lies, right? But we need to dig a little bit deeper to find something that you'll be actually able to say to people and they will like, yes, that's good. That sounds really interesting. Because I don't really see you coming to an event, meeting a person that could be your, potential lead and telling them, you know what, recently we've had such an amazing quality, and he would be like, oh, really? Yeah. Come on, right? What does it mean? So, what you need to do is ask 2 questions, either both or one of them. First one states, so what? And second one states, how? Okay? And coming back to our qualities, you can say, how do we have a high quality? Tell me a specific thing that makes you have a high quality. What that is. What that is that your quality is higher than anyone on the market, right? Well, and it's your role. You can say, maybe we are using a different material that makes our products last longer by an average of 3 years. Okay, that's something more specific. Maybe 10 years on the market, you will say, and I will say, so what? What does it mean? And you will tell me that it means that you had time to improve your service by something, or find out something, or you've got your own in-house method on doing something, right? A specific attention to details. What does it mean for you to pay attention to details? How this attention to details will be visible by me, a client, okay? How will I see that you have paid attention to details? What will you do for me? And I will look at the thing and see and say they really paid attention to details. So I hope that you are seeing a pattern. The pattern states you have to be specific, okay? And only then, when you are specific, can we see if you are, can the potential prospect, potential lead see if you're actually valuable, if you're actually valuable for him, okay? It's what makes you stand out on the market, because everyone can have a high quality, but only when you will show that you have invested $5 million onto the newest machine that no one in the country has, only then will you show that you actually possess, if not even a high quality, maybe even the highest quality. But until the point that you say that, no one is gonna know it, because how would they know it, right? So you need to be specific, and this is a part of making actually valuable values. But how are you gonna use it? Okay, we did that exercise, we have our valuable values, so what now? How can we use them? And there are plenty of areas. I think all of the areas of business can showcase your value, right? Because doing all of the marketing and sales, efforts on the market is showing your values. But let's go for specifics, okay? First of all, we've got sales. Well, sales sales and prospecting, or sales slash prospecting. How can you use this? Well, you can use this on meetings, right? You can show people on meetings, on presentations, what is your value, what makes you different, what makes you stand out on the market. During negotiations, you may say, you see, we have this kind of value, it makes our product more expensive, therefore we can't go down on price, but I hope that you understand, but it comes with also extended lifetime of that product, or it comes with something extra, additional, or done only by us compared to the rest of the market. And only then can the person understand why would they even pay you more, for example, right? So it overall comes also to financial stuff of things, right? You may show why your product costs how much it costs. Remember, being the cheapest on the market is also a value, but it's also worth pointing out what being cheapest comes with, okay? And how this value may work for your potential buyer persona. Next up, prospecting, which is also in this part of sales. Well, if you can show why are you an interesting supplier, why you could have been an interesting provider, rather than writing an email, hello, my name is Lucas and we can grow your company by smart B2B sales and marketing. Would you be interested? I don't see that working, I can send hundreds of thousands of emails and I don't really believe that it's gonna do much. But if I say, I've noticed that your companies have this type of problem and we are doing this and this by doing that, and no one on the market does this and we are the best because of this, well, that sounds much more promising, and I think that boosts your chances by a lot. So sales and prospecting are the first part. Next up is website. In the world where people are searching in Google as a first point of trying to solve a problem, in the world where people are typing into AI and hoping that he will give him answers, you need a good website. And good website is not an aesthetic website, it's not choosing nice colors and fonts. A good website is a website that says, what are you doing? What is that you're doing? What is that you're doing better, different? Show yourself. Your website is supposed to show who are you, right? So make sure it really, really does. Because today, people are not contacting companies to learn more. They are learning more about the companies, so they will at least think about contacting them. And the world is changing in that direction, so make sure that your website says what you are doing, and the value proposition is probably one of the most amazing things you can put on your website, because it shows why are you interesting, right? Next up, marketing, right? Well, marketing, value proposition in marketing can be used so broadly, right? You can state it in LinkedIn posts, you can state it in webinars, you can state it in any kind of carousel, retargeting, content, any kind of content should be built upon your value propositions, right? So even this video, it's based on the value proposition of our understanding of the topic, and we are using this in the marketing. Let me look into my notes. What else do we have there? Meetings, websites, arguments, right? Well, arguments probably could say as part of meetings or as part of negotiations, but again, they let you show the prospect, the lead, why are you interesting, why are you valuable. And the very important part of a value proposition, it lets you fight on a different level than money. The value proposition is like an ammunition for your sales representatives who, when encountered with a question, why does it cost this much? Why is it so expensive? Why are you more expensive than this other company that I have been talking to? Well, they have a beautiful amount of information and they can shoot like a machine gun to tell that person, yes, we are more expensive, but it comes with A, B, C, D, E. And therefore, if those are the things that the prospect is interested in, the fact, well, the money may stop playing such a significant role, but only when you show him why it should stop playing such a significant role. So those are the reasons, those are the areas where you can use the value proposition. But right now, where do we find the value proposition? How to do this? If I'm producing a very common item on the market, and where do I seek a value proposition, right? And there is a very nice tool because the value proposition divides into 3 areas. There is your product, and for all of the service companies, of course, the product is what the thing that you are selling, even if it's a service. For the sake of this video, let's call it a product, right? So first area where you can have values is a product area. It can be already mentioned quality, right? What are you doing better? How is your product? How is your service better on the market? Why is it better on the market? What does it come with? Maybe you have some extras. Anything in the product side of things is where this category, where those arguments, where those values are going to fall. Next up, after the product, we have a service-based values. Service-based values are gonna be the most interesting for the companies we've already mentioned, very common items on the market, right? Because, well, let's say you're selling doors, right? Probably you can change designs, change materials, but the doors are doors, there is probably not a lot of innovation that you could do on doors. But what you can do in the service space of things is maybe you can have the fastest delivery or the longest guarantee on those doors. Maybe it's, for any given reason, the easiest to purchase from you, right? Maybe the process of getting in touch with you, maybe there is something that you can do better. Maybe if there is something wrong, then you are giving people money back after the returns after max to 7 days or max to 5 days. And all of your competitors are doing this in 30 or maybe even 90 days. Show them the reason on the service side of things. Why, right? Why it's okay, but the product might be the same, but the whole shopping, process might be much more comfortable, It may leave person with much more comfort in their head. It's the same when you're buying clothes and in one store there is no returns policy, and in the other store you have 30 or even 60 days to return the product. It's always much more comfortable to buy at the shop that has 30 days guarantee, where you can just get the product back and get the money back. Most of the people won't use it, right? Most of the people are gonna keep the clothes, but the sheer fact of the possibility makes the decision much easier. And this should also reflect in your service side of things. But don't get wrong, even if your product can have a different quality, the service-based values are still very important, as all of the values are. And the last one is what's called add-ons, because add-ons or additional values, well, those are basically the ones that don't fit those two previous categories, right? It can be anything, basically. If you are in this, if you are maybe also a consulting company in some other area, then your add-on may be your blog, or maybe your YouTube channel, maybe the fact that you are very active, leader of opinion on LinkedIn, and it may be an additional value for your company, making you stronger and already said more valuable than your competitors because of any of those, right? So those are 3 type of values. And what should you do right now, or how many of them do you need? Because people think that they will write like 5 of them, maybe 3, and it's gonna be fine. But let me tell you, that is not going to be fine. You need at least 20 to 30 of those, if not more. 20, 30 plus. And you may be shaking your head right now. You may be like, Jesus, where will I find those? And with that question, we jump onto another topic, and we're gonna combine those two, because the next question is, how am I gonna make sure that my team actually uses those values? So, how to find those values inside of your company, and also how to make sure that they will stick with your team members and everyone else. So, first of all, we will come up with an exercise that will do both. First of all, you have to find time of a group of people from a company. This group of people needs to consist of important people, but from different roles. So let's write it down, how to find value, or values actually. And you will need, probably, it will be good to have a CEO, head of marketing, head of sales, maybe some directors, head of marketing, head of sales, maybe a manager or managers, someone from production as well, people that have different views on your companies, that are in different departments. So after you group that batch of people, you're gonna start talking to them. You're gonna tell them what are values that we need to find 20 or 30 values, and they are divided by product, service, and additional ones, right? So after you do this, you explain it to them, you're gonna start writing them down by asking them support questions. So you may ask them, for example, what is the reason last time the client bought from us, or why he chose us over the competitor, or maybe if there was a client that we stopped working with them, what was the reason? Was there something that we did wrong and we could have improved, or maybe the project ended and we got some positive feedback. What did he say? What did he like about working with our company? And by doing so, you may start finding a pattern, right? You may have a guy from production tell you that, like we said about quality, that you have a different material and this is what makes your product better. You may have someone from head of sales and say that, the process is very smooth and people very enjoy something along the process. They like the free consultation a lot because it allows them to explore the possibility before committing to it with a bigger sum of money. So there may be plenty of things, but making sure you don't do this. For example, if you're a CEO, don't close yourself in a room alone, write it down, and then try to convince people into using it. Gather a group of people, which what it does, it gives you a view you might not be having, right? Because those are people working in operations every day, together every day, and they may have a different view, but you are also important because you again may have a different view, and all of those different views and this brainstorm that is gonna happen in that room will make sure it will make it much more easier that you will actually find those 20, 30, or maybe even 70 values that your company has. And it also helps to stick it, right? If you've got managers, head of sales, maybe you'll get even some team members, or if you're a small company, you can gather all together and people will start seeing why those values are important. You're not doing it to make their lives harder, you're doing it to make their lives easier. If you give your sales team an ammunition to fight, on meetings for your product, your company, to negotiate the price that is not killing your business, then I think there is no reason why they shouldn't use it. But to do so, you need to make sure that they understand what the value proposition, what is its real value, what is the power that it possesses to do all of those things. Okay, so this actually gives us those 2 bullet points. It shows where to find the values and it shows how to make them stick. The last part is upon also feedback loops with clients, conversations. You may start finding the potentials for new values, right? Because it's not like you have some bunch of values today and it cannot grow, but if you can find and spot places and areas where you can grow that would be important and the clients actually do care about, then why not start creating them, writing them down, and being even stronger on the market not by a sheer thought in a CEO mind, but by actual feedback loop and thinking about what customers need. So this is a value proposition, and I hope this video was helpful for you and you're gonna use it to gain just a competitive edge and advantage on the market. In the next video, we're gonna talk about the segmentation, and I'm gonna tell you how it can improve again a lot of in your business and what are the most common mistakes while talking about the segmentation. But for today, this is all. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day as always, and I will see you in a week from today.